You wake up one morning and realize something has changed. Not suddenly, not dramatically, but somewhere along the way, the weight of an ordinary day became heavier than it used to be. You look around at the life you built, the responsibilities you carried, the family you raised, the years you worked without complaint, and you wonder why it doesn't feel the way you thought it would. You did everything right. You followed the rules. You stayed responsible when others fell apart. And yet, here you are, past 70, feeling more exhausted, more confused, and more alone than you ever imagined possible at this stage. It's not that you're falling apart. It's not that you made terrible choices or wasted your years. It's something quieter than that, something harder to name. You feel it when you wake up without a clear reason to move quickly. You feel it when the phone stays silent for days. You feel it when someone asks how you're doing and you realize you don't have a simple answer anymore. There's a heaviness now that wasn't there before, and the strangest part is that you can't quite explain where it came from. You just know that life, somehow, feels harder than it should. And the truth is, no one warned you. No one sat you down at 60 or 65 and said, listen, the rules are about to change. The things that used to work won't work the same way anymore. The effort you put in won't always come back to you. The respect you earned won't always follow you into the room. No one told you that after a certain point, the world stops waiting for you to catch up. It just keeps moving, faster and louder and busier, and you're left standing there wondering when exactly you stopped being able to keep pace. If this sounds familiar, stay with me. This confusion isn't weakness. It's not a moral failing. It's the shock of realizing that the life you understood, the one you built your routines and expectations around, has quietly shifted into something unfamiliar. And because no one talks about it, because everyone pretends that aging is just a matter of slowing down physically, you're left thinking that maybe you're the only one who feels this way. But you're not. This feeling is everywhere, among people who worked hard, loved deeply, and did what they were supposed to do. It's just that nobody says it out loud. For most of your life, the rules were clear. You worked hard, and that work brought security. You built relationships, and those relationships gave you belonging. You contributed to your family, your community, your job, and in return, you had a place in the world. There was a rhythm to it, a logic. You knew what was expected of you, and you knew what you could expect in return. Life wasn't perfect, but it made sense. But somewhere along the way, without anyone announcing it, those rules changed. The world didn't stop and explain that experience would no longer be valued the way it once was. That busyness would become more important than presence. That people would stop calling not because they didn't care, but because they simply didn't think of it. The shift happened slowly, almost invisibly, until one day you looked around and realized that the world you knew how to navigate had been replaced by one that no longer seemed to need you in the same way. People are busier now, but not in the way you were busy. They're distracted, pulled in a dozen directions at once, always reachable, but never fully present. Relationships have become thinner, more transactional, less rooted in the kind of steady presence that used to define connection. And the value of experience, the wisdom that comes from having lived through decades of change, no longer carries the weight it once did. In a world obsessed with speed and novelty, the things you know best can feel irrelevant. This isn't personal. It's not that people don't care about you. It's that the rhythm of life has changed, and the new rhythm doesn't leave much room for the slower, quieter way you've learned to move through the world. You didn't fail to keep up. The world just moved in a direction that no longer matches where you are. And that mismatch, that quiet sense of being out of sync, is part of what makes everything feel so much harder now. The exhaustion you feel isn't just about your body slowing down. Yes, things take longer. Yes, you get tired more easily. But that's not the deepest tiredness. The real exhaustion comes from somewhere else. It comes from the constant effort of adjusting, of trying to stay relevant, of managing the fear that you might become a burden. It comes from the silence that grows louder the older you get, from the realization that people don't need you the way they used to, and that the world has learned to function without asking for your input. This is emotional fatigue, and it drains you in ways that sleep can't fix. It's the tiredness that comes from noticing how often you have to reach out first, from wondering if your presence still matters, from holding back the things you want to say because you're not sure anyone wants to hear them. It's the weight of being careful all the time. Careful not to complain too much, not to ask for too much, not to remind people of your limitations. You carry this weight quietly because you don't want to be difficult, but it's there, pressing down on you every single day. And the hardest part is that your body might still be strong enough to do what needs to be done, but your soul is tired. Tired of adjusting. Tired of feeling invisible. Tired of the loneliness that creeps in even when people are around. This kind of exhaustion doesn't show up in a doctor's office. It doesn't get diagnosed or treated. It just sits with you, making every day feel a little harder than it should. You thought it would be easier by now. That's the quiet frustration that lives under everything else. You thought that after decades of working, raising a family, managing responsibilities, keeping things together when life got hard, you would finally get to rest. Not in the sense of doing nothing, but in the sense of things finally feeling lighter. You imagined this phase of life as one where the heaviest burdens had been lifted, where you could enjoy the peace you worked so hard to create. Instead, new challenges appeared. Loneliness that you didn't expect. Uncertainty about your purpose. Vulnerability that you weren't prepared for. The body that used to carry you through anything now requires careful attention. The relationships that used to feel solid sometimes feel fragile. The future that used to stretch out wide now feels condensed, more urgent, harder to hold on to. This is where most people start blaming themselves. And there's a frustration in that, a quiet anger even, though you might not let yourself feel it fully. You did your part. You showed up. You stayed responsible when it would have been easier to fall apart. So why does it still feel so hard? Why is there still so much to manage, so much to navigate, so much weight to carry? You thought you'd earned a break from all this, but life doesn't seem to care what you thought you earned. Acknowledging this expectation, this unmet promise that life would get easier, doesn't make you ungrateful. It makes you human. It's okay to feel disappointed that things didn't unfold the way you imagined. It's okay to admit that this stage of life is harder than you thought it would be. You don't have to pretend that everything is fine, that you're at peace with it all, that aging is some kind of beautiful, graceful process. Sometimes it's just hard. And saying that out loud doesn't diminish what you've built. It just names what's true. But here's the shift. Life after 70 isn't harder because you're being punished. It's not harder because you failed or because you're weak. It's harder because it's asking something different from you now. For most of your life, what mattered was endurance. Showing up, pushing through, getting things done. And you did that. You mastered it. But this stage doesn't reward endurance the same way. It doesn't care how much you can push through. It's asking for something quieter, something harder to quantify. It's asking for awareness, for the ability to see what actually matters and let go of what doesn't. It's asking you to choose carefully instead of doing everything, to rest without guilt, to accept help without shame, to find meaning not in how much you produce or contribute, but in the clarity you bring to each moment. This isn't about becoming stronger. It's about seeing differently. And that's hard in its own way, because it requires you to unlearn almost everything you were taught. You were taught that your value comes from what you do, from how useful you are, from how much you can handle without breaking. But now, life is asking you to find value in simply being, in noticing, in letting things unfold without forcing them, in trusting that you don't have to prove anything anymore. Maybe life didn't get harder. Maybe it just requires a different way of living. A way that doesn't depend on speed or productivity or constant motion. A way that makes room for stillness, for reflection, for the kind of quiet wisdom that only comes after decades of living. This doesn't mean giving up. It doesn't mean retreating or becoming passive. It means understanding that the rules have changed and that trying to live by the old rules will only make you more exhausted. You're not failing. You're adjusting. And that adjustment is one of the hardest things you'll ever do because it asks you to let go of the very things that once defined you. But on the other side of that letting go is something lighter. Not easier, necessarily, but clearer. A life where you don't have to carry everything. Where you can choose what matters and release what doesn't. Where you can finally stop proving and start living. If any part of this resonated with you, I'd love to hear about it in the comments. What's the one thing that feels heavier now than it used to? Sometimes just naming it makes it a little easier to carry. And if you found something useful here, something that made you feel a little less alone in this, hit that like button so others who need to hear this can find it too. There's more where this came from, conversations that don't sugarcoat what this stage of life actually feels like. So subscribe if you want to keep exploring this together. You're not alone in feeling this way, not even close.